The 5 Great Lakes in the United States are a treasure to our nation, and the integrity of all 5 lakes is being threatened by the invasive Asian carp species. If the Asian carp threat is not stopped before they breach the Great Lakes, then the native species, economy, and sporting of the Great Lakes will be greatly damaged. All the information obtained on this topic has come from different avenues of credible sources and research. These sources include GreatLakes.org, the Toledo Blade, Mana Report, Hydrobiologia, Volume 848, National Fisherman Magazine, and Tender's Info News. The economy surrounding the Great Lakes is huge for all the surrounding states and Canada as well. Not only that, but the enormous attraction of sport in the Great Lakes would be destroyed by the invasive Asian carp. Fishing, water sports, and boating would all become a relic of the lakes. The native species would be eaten or starved out by the Asian carp fish, destroying the native species' homes. The Great Lakes yield many positives that affect 8 different states, being such huge bodies of water. The lake's economic impact is incredible. The Asian carp are a fierce invasive species with the ability to destroy the Great Lakes in more than one way. Efforts have been made in the past to slow or stop the Asian carp from reaching the Great Lakes ecosystem, but have not worked out as well as planned. The 5 Great Lakes are in the United States. They're attached to 8 of the United States and southern Canada. The Great Lakes are an amazing natural resource and provide refuge for many native species. There is also a huge economic advantage of being on any of the Great Lakes with a large fishing and boating industry. There are more than one invasive species living in our beloved Great Lakes, and the Asian carp fish may be the most damning. It's very important to keep this invasive species from reaching the Great Lakes. Asian carp reproduce quickly and eat twice their body weight in nutrients every day. This would negatively affect vegetation in the Great Lakes, depleting it quicker than normal. It would also take away food that the native species depend on for nourishment. Asian carp also not only would deplete the vegetation, but eat smaller native species and take over territory, forcing native species into different areas of the lakes, making feeding more difficult. Different groups and divisions of the U.S. government have become involved in this issue, and none have successfully found a way to stop the Asian carp. Stopping an invasive species from inhabiting native ecosystems is no easy feat. It's a game of cat and mouse on an immense scale. A basic breakdown of this plan would be to involve not only the United States government, but Canada's government as well. Luckily, we have the Alliance for the Great Lakes. This is a nonprofit formed to protect the natural waters of the Great Lakes, which contain about 90% of the fresh water in North America. In 2008, the Alliance for the Great Lakes formed the Great Lakes Compact. After being approved by all 8 Great Lakes states, the United States Congress, and then signed into law by President George W. Bush, the Great Lakes Compact is made up of 8 Great Lakes states and 2 Canadian provinces, all working together to preserve the Great Lakes water source. The Alliance is already pushing the agenda to keep invasive carp out of the Great Lakes, searching for long and short-term solutions. The official website of the Great Lakes Alliance states the following: Man-made Chicago Canal connects the Mississippi River to the Great Lakes. It allows invasive species like invasive carp to move between the Great Lakes and the Mississippi River Basin. Invasive silver and bighead carp are voracious filter feeders, eating between 20 and 40% of their body weight in a day. Invasive carp spawn multiple times per year, making them a threat to native species. We're pushing for a long-term permanent solution to prevent the movement of aquatic invasive species between the Great Lakes and the Mississippi River Basin. And we're also advocating for improved short-term solutions. Although attempts are being made to stop the Asian carp, nothing permanent has been found to be effective enough to keep them from moving closer to the compounds of the Great Lakes. One of the most important pieces of stopping the Asian carp is spreading the information about the species, how they would affect the ecosystem, the native species, the vegetation, the sport of fishing, and the economy that depends on the Great Lakes. In August of 2019, National Fisherman Magazine released an article with information about the United States Army Corps' plan to attempt to stop the Asian carp spread to Lake Michigan from the Illinois River. The plan is to install electric barriers, noisemakers, and other devices to stop the Asian carp from passing a choke point in the Illinois River. The proposal was accepted, and the funding was $778 million to complete the project, originally quoted at $275 million, hoping to have the project completed by 2027. Installing the barrier at the choke point in the Illinois River is a great spot, but they should also consider a secondary barrier at the end of the Illinois River where it's being fed into Lake Michigan. Instead of cables lined in a row, an electric netting woven small enough to not allow any passerby seems more sufficient. Tom Henry from the Toledo Blade released the article, Asian Carp, Turning a Nuisance into Commodity for the Great Lakes, on November 10th, 2019. In the article, the Asian carp are compared to weeds. They're not necessarily bad, but in the wrong environment, Every time the weed is removed, it comes right back. This comparison is fitting for Asian carp, seeming like no matter how many times they're removed, they repopulate too quickly to stop. A way that this could be curbed is to research the territories that prefer for mating grounds and interrupt the hatching process, destroying nests before hatching can occur. Although the Asian carp issue has become public knowledge in the immediately affected areas, the information needs to be spread across the country. A lot of Americans fail to realize that 90% of the fresh water in the United States comes from the Great Lakes. Tenders Info News conducted an online poll about the Asian carp issue and found the results staggering in support of immediate structural action to stop the spread. More than 9 in 10 respondents from each state agreed that the immediate increase in protections is necessary. That is a great percentage of citizens pushing for an offensive move against Asian carp. With the support of local states, citizens, presidents, and U.S. Army Corps, we have been able to put in place some great deterrents. Canada also plays an important part on the northern front. According to Syndicate Media Incorporated, Canada has been doing constant monitoring for any Asian carp DNA in the Great Lakes for the past 11 years. Being that the threat is coming from the south of the Great Lakes in the United States, they have not brought about any offensive moves such as dams, barricades, or noise diversions. At stake, they have a $13 billion on average every year, brought in from fishing, hunting, and recreational boating activity. Even though Canada has a lot at stake, they can't perform much offensive action other than supporting the Great Lakes Compact, of which they are devoted. Monitoring of the Great Lakes is very crucial to this venture. In this way, we can tell if the Asian carp have breached into the Great Lakes. Knowing what environment is ideal for hatching, oxygen levels in areas they congregate, seasons they prefer laying eggs in, and ideal temperature are a great way to identify areas where they can be removed in masses. According to a scientific journal report funded by Springer Nature Switzerland, removal of the Asian carp from waterways leading to the Great Lakes may be the lake's best chance of avoiding invasion. By knowing the traits of all 4 Asian carp species on the Great Lakes, we can learn their behavior patterns, feeding, and breeding grounds, and know when to strike. Removing the Asian carp from the waterways while they are congregated masses is a great way to reduce the breeding. This has worked well with other invasive species in the past, such as the sea lamprey. Using these tactics, we can narrow down high traffic areas for Asian carp and place an electric barrier noisemakers upstream, making it easier to harvest them. Between the efforts of the Alliance for the Great Lakes, the United States government, Canada's government, there is also one more group that have joined the fight to stop Asian carp from invading the Great Lakes. The Great Lakes Conservation Coalition. It's a huge benefactor to the fight against the Asian carp as well. They're an informal group made up of many mighty giants. With all these forces and knowledge combined, we can stop the Asian carp from moving to the Great Lakes using combined efforts. Reporting and monitoring the Great Lakes waterways leading to the lakes is crucial. Once we know the area and patterns, we can trap them. The Army Corps installed electric barriers and noisemakers, keeping them contained to the breeding grounds, and local government harvesting the masses. There is no quick solution to keeping the Asian carp out of the Great Lakes, and maybe no permanent solution. But with every moving part working in tandem, we continue to slow or remove the threat. The 5 Great Lakes in the United States are a treasure to our nation, and with the integrity of all 5 Great Lakes is being threatened by the invasive carp species. All the information obtained on this topic came from different avenues of credible sources and research. These include greatlakes.org, Toledo Blade, Mena Report, Hydrobiology, 848, National Fisherman Magazine, and Tenders Info News. The economy surrounding the Great Lakes is huge for all the surrounding states and Canada as well. Not only that, but the enormous attraction of sporting the Great Lakes would be destroyed by the invasive Asian carp. Fishing, water sports, and boating would all become a relic of the lakes. The native species would be eaten or starved out by Asian carp fish, destroying native species homes. The Great Lakes yield many positives that infect 8 different states. Being such huge bodies of water, the lake's economic impact is incredible. The Asian carp are fierce invasive species with the ability to destroy the Great Lakes in more than one way. Efforts have been made in the past to slow or stop the Asian carp from reaching the Great Lakes ecosystem, but haven't worked as planned. The 5 Great Lakes in the United States are a treasure to our nation, and the integrity of all 5 lakes is being threatened by invasive carp species.